Hi, I'm Mike Jackson. I'm a preservation architect based in Springfield, Illinois, and I'd like to talk to you about the Building Technology Heritage Library. It's a project of the Association for Preservation Technology, an international organization about the conservation of the built environment. And over the last 10 years, APT is championing a project to put archaic, out-of-print technical information about the built environment online, a digital archive of the past. The main substance of our collection are trade catalogs, what the marketplace is telling you they've got to sell. Whether it's a tin ceiling catalog, a storefront, a piece of brick, you name it. All the different parts that go into making a building have a trade association and material that goes into their fabrication and sales, and we're gathering that data to put this comprehensive archive together.
Hi, my name is Ann Sullivan. I'm the director of the Historic Preservation Program at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. When I was serving as president of APT International, I was approached by Mike Jackson and Dean Koga with an idea to create an online digital collection of trade catalogs. All three of us had been exposed to the Columbia University collection, and we saw how important access to this material was. And fortunately, the APT board supported us, and we were able to kick off the digitization of the Building Technology Heritage Library.
I'm Dean Koga. I am the immediate past president of APT. And in 2006, I served as the editor for APT's website. And we were looking for technical content on the site, which we didn't have at the time. And I was talking to Mike Jackson about what we could put up, and he suggested putting up some trade catalogs from his personal collection. So we scanned them and we made a page. And on that page, we said that if you are interested in participating in this project, please get in touch. The Canadian Centre for Architecture, the CCA, then contacted us, Mike and me, and said, we have 3,000 catalogs, trade catalogs, building trade catalogs, and we would like to participate in your project. So that was the initiation of the project.
So we looked around at who had collections. We found various libraries, institutions around North America that had these materials, and we started to put together an effort to put this online. Digitizing, a scanning setup where it records them, then we transfer them into a format, put them online, and share them with the world. APT is incredibly grateful to the Internet Archive as being the host for the Building Technology Heritage Library. The Internet Archive is a nonprofit library that provides universal access to digital versions of books in the public domain. APT is careful to select materials that date from pre-1964, which puts them in the public domain so that everyone gets access to these materials. The Internet Archive provides many tools for the modern researcher to find the various documents, both archaic and modern, that are on the Building Technology Heritage Library. Our first main contributor was the Canadian Centre for Architecture in Montreal. They have architectural trade catalogs, including many early ones from the Philadelphia region, from the old Franklin Institute in Philadelphia. So early 19th century technical documents, as well as a whole variety of things from the 20th century.
My name is Julia Gersowitz. I am a conservation architect in Montreal, and our work is across Canada. The CCA is a world-class institution, and Montreal is enormously lucky to have had Phyllis Lambert choose her hometown to build this resource in.
The Canadian Centre for Architecture collection also includes several hundred examples of documents from Europe, giving the Building Technology Heritage Library its start on an international perspective.
And I personally was rather astonished to discover it had such a wide range of trade catalogs of the period. And they were very open to allowing the APT to use their catalogs.
We had a collection team there for a year, scanning their materials, almost 4,000 of their documents.
Approximately 6 of our students were involved over a period of about 2 years of processing the raw data from the trade catalog collection from the Canadian Centre for Architecture that ultimately were uploaded into the Building Technology Heritage Library.
Other collections come from Tulane University in New Orleans. Their Southeast Architectural Archives contributed about 700 documents, including a lot from New Orleans-based companies, Southern Pine Association being one of the principal ones. And then, believe it or not, there are quite a few private collectors around America that have this material. So we put together a whole variety of materials to basically assemble this story, and we continue to grow the collection. The Avery Library at Columbia University is another important collection we've recently added to the Building Technology Heritage Library. We hope to continue adding more of their materials. Another institutional supporter was the International Masonry Institute, which has publications on masonry, brick, concrete buildings, and another useful technical archive for the Building Technology Heritage Library. APT's first corporate supporter and contributor to the Building Technology Heritage Library is the United States Gypsum Company. USG, based in Chicago, has an archive that goes back to the 1930s but continues up into the 1990s when they started moving their material to an online format. We're very grateful for them for allowing us to use their entire generations of collections to add to the BTHL. Then we're going to hear from a few people who have used our collection to tell you what they've found valuable about it.
My name is Tom Jester, and I'm a preservation architect and principal at Quinn Evans Architects in Washington, D.C. And our practice is heavily focused on historic preservation. APT deserves a tremendous amount of credit for the work it's done to create the Building Technology Heritage Library. It's a tremendous resource and something that will be valuable. It's valuable today for practitioners and will continue to be valuable for even the next generation of folks looking for information about the history of building technology.
My name is Richard Piper. I'm a principal and director of preservation for Jan Herber Corny Associates, which is a preservation architecture firm in New York City. I'm also on the board of the Historic Preservation Education Foundation, and the APT has come to the foundation for funding for the Building Technology Heritage Library. And when they first approached us, I said, this is perfect. This is exactly what we do. But my enthusiasm only grew as I became more and more familiar with the library, and I use it all the time. The Building Technology Heritage Library has also been very useful to our practice in beginning to understand more about details and fabrications that we encountered that we're not familiar with. I hope you realize what a remarkable tool this is for preservationists.
Pam is the creator of Retro Renovation, a website that serves the interests of homeowners with houses of the mid-century period.
In 2008, I went with my own URL, retrorenovation.com. We also show lots of vintage materials like catalogs, images from the Building Technology Heritage Library so that people can see how these rooms were put together back in the day. My managing editor, Kate, recently started a series where we wanted to look back at the different color bathrooms that existed, even going back starting to the 20s, because that's when we first started to see colored tile. So we were actually able to use those materials and create a timeline of when the color was first introduced. And then we showed how the color progressed as it was introduced by other manufacturers all the way through about 1964. The Building Technology Heritage Library was crucial in our research in being able to put together this color timeline. You know, the more you understand the history of these artifacts, the more likely you are to see to believe they're beautiful and worth preservation.
I'm Jim Dreger. I'm the State Historic Preservation Officer of Wisconsin, and I collect houseplant catalogs. My interest in houseplant catalogs started a little over 30 years ago. I was doing an architectural and historical survey in Old Hickory, Tennessee, and that town was built by the Aladdin Homes Company, and it was full of mail order houses. I got very interested in that and started doing research on mail order architecture and found out there were many companies that sold either blueprints or entire houses through the mail. I understood that there were no research collections of materials from these companies. No one really collected the catalogs. So I started buying catalogs, and that's where it all began. I think they're very important to historic preservation because they allow us to understand working class and middle class houses, the houses that are not designed by architects. You can see that they're very influential in terms of the broad housing market. There are many companies that sold plans or houses by mail, including the Aladdin Homes Company from Bay City, Michigan, Sterling Homes, Gordon Van Tyne Company. Of course, everybody knows about Sears and Roebuck. Garlinghouse Plan Service was a prolific producer of blueprints from the 1920s all the way up to today. And then a lot of material companies also produced houseplant catalogs. The Portland Cement Association had plan books. So there are scores and scores of these companies that provided either houses or blueprints. My goal in collecting these houseplan catalogs has always been to find a way to be able to share them. That's what the Building Technology Heritage Library has done. It has allowed me to share my collection out across the world and make them available to anyone who can look at them online.
Since its start in 2006, the Building Technology Heritage Library has grown to thousands of documents and millions of users. The combined archives of major institutional collections and private collectors have been united into a comprehensive research archive. The Building Technology Heritage Library far surpasses our original expectations. We get thousands of users a day. People are finding it for all kinds of reasons, and we'd really invite our users to share their comments. Be the first person to provide a review of a document. Let us know how you found it useful. But I would be remiss if not concluding about this wonderful support we've had for this document. You've heard from the institutional users, the Canadian Centre for Architecture, who was our first major contributor. But beyond that, there have been several others, the institutions you've heard about, and funding. The Richard H. Driehaus Foundation of Chicago was our initial supporter who really launched this program. We're very grateful for them. Continuing support for the Building Technology Heritage Library has been provided by the National Center for Preservation Technology and Training, a part of the National Park Service, and the Historic Preservation Education Foundation. Both of these organizations see the value of the Building Technology Heritage Library to serving the broader missions of preservation. So thank you to all of our users, thank you to our contributors, thank you to our supporters. We see the Building Technology Heritage Library as a mission accomplished for the Association for Preservation Technology. But we're not over yet. We know that it has continued growth into the future, and that growth will be sponsored by new generations of contributors and users. Thank you.